Hi, this is Johan from Ganister. We are setting things up for this live stream, the Friday live stream. Again, this is recorded. The goal for this live stream is this is Johan from Ganister. Is basically to have two different types of value for us. And for the viewers, either you're viewing live or later with the recording on YouTube and I guess on LinkedIn too. The goal is to just show the software. If anyone is watching live, then ask questions and we can have live exchanges. And I'm trying to set up things so I can have your some questions. Well, maybe not this time, but so the last time for the live stream that I did last Friday, there was an issue with the sound. We changed the setup and the sound was working on our welcome screen, but then when I moved to showing the software itself, the sound was off, and we understood why then. So now I just switched to my desktop, and the sound still works. So that's fixed. The other thing that didn't go well this week is that we booked the live stream on LinkedIn directly and not on Restream, which is the services that create the streams on LinkedIn and YouTube. So now, and we just fixed it, so maybe you don't have the right address, but at least it's going to be recorded. The last thing that we need to fix, and I guess it's going to be for next time, it's the comments. If you post a comment on YouTube, and maybe I'll try to display the video. If you write something on YouTube or LinkedIn, I won't be able to see it this time. I do my best. I'll try to open both windows and check from time to time if there are questions. Okay, so I'm going to mix two things today. I'm going to show again the different things that we've included in version 2.8. So that's what I reviewed last week. And I'll also cover a live install of Ganister. So the first thing I'll do is I'll do the install, so that then we can have a presentation of what is new in this version. So let me just open the LinkedIn flow so I can see if there are any questions. Okay. Now, if there's any question, I should have this, but it's not optimal. We'll see next time. So the first thing is there are two ways of having Ganister. Either you have a contract with us and we deliver it as a SaaS product, so you don't have to do anything. You can still have multiple environments, so you can access a dev environment or a staging environment where you test things, and a production environment, and you can actually see the difference between those two, because one will be red and the other one will be not red. But if you're a developer, you're trying to build your own thing, but you haven't validated a business case yet in your company, and you just want to try Ganister on a local computer, you can do so by installing it. And this is available freely because our goal or our business model is on hosting the solution, delivering the solution as a SaaS product, but mainly doing upgrades. So if you don't use the SaaS option and at some point you need to upgrade, then that's when we need a commercial relationship. So I'm starting Neo4j, which is our database, and I will create a new database. So I will have it here. Here to install Ganister, there is a package, a free package called Ganister Installer. So let me check if there are. If you are installing Ganister for the first time, so there is a package, and I will show it to you. Ganister Installer. Let me do this here. So this is Ganister Installer. So this one is a package that doesn't change much. So you install this if you have Node installed. So one of the key requirements for Ganister is to have Node installed. Actually, if you want to see how to install Ganister, we have full documentation here. Download Ganister. And so the prerequisites are Node.js. It installs Node, which is the JavaScript runtime for having our web server, and Neo4j, which is the database. And Node.js is delivering also NPM, which allows you to download packages. So once you've installed this with the -g, which allows you to run then this anywhere, you can just do new Ganister. And it starts the install of Ganister. So I'm trying to cut a few things because delivering this presentation uses a lot of bandwidth, I believe. So it takes some time. So new Ganister will launch the CLI to start the Ganister install. So what it will do, it will download Ganister, the zip version. It will extract it and start. So let me try to start it again. Actually, I didn't want to be directly in temp, so if I have I think I created demo install, new Ganister. So the first thing it will ask is just my email, so you get then registered. It sends you a message with a code. One-time code, if I can find it. Okay. Oops. So enter verification code. This is the code I received, and then it asks you which version you want to download. We leave all most of the latest revisions. This is actually for upgrades reasons, but I don't think we'll keep these for a long time. So we just installed version 2.8. Yes. So this is the install that I'm running is actually what is made here. So if you haven't installed Ganister, install, that's the one-time thing that you need to do, and then new Ganister, and you go through different screens where they ask you for your email, etc. Then the first thing that we will do once it's installed is configure the database. So either you have a database installed or database available on the cloud, or you have this. Let me create a new local DB. I will use something that we already have. Yeah. So we'll call it demo install, and the password is going to be the same. So it's great. It creates the database. Then I can go to this folder here. It's in temp. So let me open C temp demo install. And here you have an env folder with an env file. So you just open this file, replace the URL. So by default, this is for local instance, so not encrypted. So the username is Neo4j and the password is demo install. That's what I've just done. Save, and you can close this. Make sure your database is running, so we'll wait a little bit for this. What you can do in the meantime is install all the dependencies. So you can do npm install. So again, with the live streaming, it may take a while before it installs everything. So in the meantime, I'll show the list of new things that we will review in this video. I just want to make sure the sound is okay. It seems to be okay. Just checking if there is anything on LinkedIn mentioning. I think we're good. So here, dependencies are being installed, and here the database is being launched. What I can do in the meantime is maybe look at another database and show you around. So I'll also display the different elements that we've added for the last release. We'll review this. So basically, we have different types of upgrades elements. So we upgrade the main client. So that's your UI, the server, everything that works in the background, and gconfig. There is a mistake here. Gconfig, which is the configuration panel. Sometimes some features can come across different categories, And then we have here a few others. We have regarding the upgrade and regarding the reporting engine. So that's what I tried to explain last week, but the sound was not available. So if I review those, we changed the relationship model height for displaying more results. This is when I'll show you here. Server is starting. So I guess with the streaming, this is consuming a lot of bandwidth and taking quite a lot of time. Okay, this is coming. All right. Let's do this. Come on. Okay. Up. So let me reduce this. So when you have, oh, this is very slow. When you have a part, for example, and you want to attach something, like a component, I will switch to English. The window here was not taking this much space before, so we increased it so that you have more rows that you can look at. So that's one thing that was enhanced. We fixed the lifecycle promotions loading when promotions array is empty. That was an issue we had where if you didn't have any history in your lifecycle, when you look at this here, this would show loading instead of not showing anything. That was a mistake. It wasn't really a big problem, but it wasn't the right experience. Enhanced filtering experience in complex grids. Again, I should have had a much better demo assembly. So if I look for assemblies here, let me see if I see this. Yeah, I just have one component. So what we've added here is the capability to filter through a full tree, full structure, and we find something that has more content. So I'll add more. If I put this So now we have more line. The data is not great. But if, for example, we look for I don't know which one, PRT 003. I can put here PRT 003, and it filters the whole tray grid. But it keeps the structure. And the good thing is we have a customer where they have thousands of lines, and when they search this, it's great. They find their results, but then they want to see it in the full structure. So what they have to do is just select this, clean their search, and then it keeps your line selected, so you know where you are in this grid. And the line is visible. So if for example the line was down in this grid, it would navigate down to this line. Add node information on node over in where use pop-up. That's when we do a where use. It's a simple thing that we've added. Is if you are over a node, you can see on the top right the label, the version, and the lifecycle state. So you may not see a version for everything. For example, this is an ECO, and maybe we haven't set a label, so there is no label, there is no revision. It's not something that is versionable, but it has a state, so it's in work. Add confirmation, no, which one? Add confirmation pop-up when deleting a relationship. That's something that we've added, because when you remove an item, there was no confirmation pop-up. So we added this to make sure you reconsider what you're removing. Remove the validation button in relationship selection if one row is selected. That's the interesting one. When you add something in a bill of material, usually users would double click. As a reflex, they would double click here to add it, and then to close the window they will click on the green check here, and the consequence is that the part would be added twice. So once you do it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, then you realize that you're doing it wrong and you're not doing it anymore. But if you haven't used it for a month or for a week, then you come back and you do the same mistake. And worst, if you do this mistake but you don't look at what you've done and you don't double check that there are these 2 mentions, you end up with a wrong bill of material. So what we did is that we got rid of the green check. So it's still double click to add one, to add a line. And once you're done, you click somewhere else and it will close the pop-up. Unless you want to add more lines. In this case, if you select multiple lines at the same time, you can't double click because the double click only affects 1 line. So you can see that if we multi-select, then the check mark is back. It will add those 4 lines and close the window. Enable range selection in most grids. That's like this. So in most of the grids, you can select ranges if you want to copy a certain set of cells. Disallow to show superseded nodes. That's in the where use. You can decide whether you want to display superseded nodes or not. So nodes that have been revised. Save grid group expanded state on refresh. That was an issue we realized for very big bill of materials when you would work with your bill of material, and sometimes you fold some of these levels. You work on a specific level, and if you do an update, because some of these grids can be updated, if you don't update, then it refreshes the whole grid, and so you're lost. The whole configuration changes. So that's what we changed. So the behavior is that now it stays where you are, and it also keeps the state of all the folded and unfolded levels. So let me see if we have anything from LinkedIn or YouTube. We have. Oops. Yeah. Okay. What's next? The server fixed displaying the commit reference for support purposes. That may not ring a bell for anyone. It's just here. If you have an issue and when you send an issue or a request or a question to our support team, most of the time we tell you to give us the commit you're on. So it gives us, normally we just ask for the revision, but sometimes we have custom instances where we've changed some things. So we want to make sure we have the right application that we can test on our site. So this wasn't, for a while, it would not track the right date. So we fixed this. Updated third-party libraries to latest request versions. So when you download all these dependencies during the install, it downloads dependencies that may have newer versions, and we constantly check if there is any security issue on these libraries. So whenever it is recommended from these libraries to update or to upgrade to their latest version, we do it, and so we include it in a new Ganister revision. So and this time we do it pretty much all the time, and we don't necessarily mention it in the release notes. It's just that this time there's been multiple ones at the same time. Stringify values to check if there's the same to prevent useless modifications saved in user history. That's a small issue we've had where the history of users was growing because of an error in our code where it was comparing two arrays of information which were detected as not equal, even though they were not changed. Fix getting token expiration date back from web services. We had this from a few customers who realized that they were disconnected more than they should have been. So it usually, after an hour of usage, they would be disconnected, even though they were working on Ganister for an hour. And the mechanism in Ganister is that as long as you're using the software, so interacting with Ganister, so after half an hour, the next exchange that you will have with Ganister will renew your token expiration. So you really have to be not working with Ganister for a full hour before it disconnects you for security reasons. But there was an issue with returning the right token expiration date, so it would in any way after an hour it would disconnect you, which has been fixed. Fix custom graph subqueries. Not a lot of customers are using this. This is the mechanism that helps us to give access to certain nodes based on specific graph queries, graph paths. And after we released version 2.7, we broke something in this mechanism. So if you were not using these subqueries, it would not impact you. If you were, we released a patch to those customers a few days after. And well, even the same day, but a few days after the release when they actually got the new upgrade. And so we included it in version 2.8. Again, now in gconfig, enhance tab translation user experience, that's something that was not blocking at all, but it was annoying mainly when you are working a lot in this configuration panel. So I guess it was more annoying for our co-workers who are doing demos and doing configuring this application a lot. So whenever you were on a node type, if you were adding a tab, it would not create the tab with the right translation. Instead of the translation, it will give you a technical name, and so you had to refresh or to rewrite the translation. Now it's something that works much better, and you don't have to worry about this anymore. Add default group for new properties. So that's a small thing. Again, it's mainly for demos. It's when you create a new node type. What we like to do is create a new node type, add some properties, and then build the UI. And we have a button here, auto generate, to build the form automatically. But if there is no group, if your property is not in a group, then it doesn't add it to a panel like this. So we said by default, properties will have a group. And so it's going to be easier to just quickly build a form. Default hidden lifecycle. Again, here we have a switch which says hidden lifecycle. So if you don't have a lifecycle on a node, let's check tooling as a lifecycle. But if, for example, we wouldn't want a lifecycle on tooling, you could switch here, hidden lifecycle, and you see the tab disappears. It doesn't delete all your setups, so if you did this by mistake, you will still have your lifecycle with all the information. It just deletes, it just hides it. And so by default, we will set it as hidden because a lot of these node types, when you create them, you don't have a lifecycle yet ready for it. Quick style update on gconfig. I'm not sure you noticed, but the font family is not the same. We try to make things a little bit look a little bit better. Your main login screen image is reused here for the gconfig. It feels a little bit nicer. If you haven't noticed, this is the city where most of our tech co-workers are working. It's Lyon in the southeast of France, even if our headquarters is in Paris. Add color and customize image to gconfig. That's what I've just mentioned. You can easily change this image. You don't have to go in different files. You just go to settings, and here you can change the background image. And you can see here it looks very normal, while here it looks a bit red. This is because this is a dev instance. So if you set your instance as dev instance, it will add a red layer. This is so that you are in a dev environment. And if you log in as an admin on gconfig and you don't see this red layer, then there might be multiple issues, or there may be an issue that you are on a production environment. The second thing that I would wonder is why you didn't see it when logging in. So it may mean that you have the same password and same authentication in production and in dev, which should not be something that you do. And just as a reminder, you can have two-factor authentication with Ganister. So it's either we can integrate with Google Workspace if you want the login to be related to Google Workspace, and we can have a double two-factor authentication with an email sent when you log in the system. So it sends you an email with a one-time password to check that it's really you. So that's all for the new things. There was also the upgrades. Just a word on the upgrades. So most of the upgrade is usually automated. The only thing that we have on a client basis is we check what has been upgraded, and sometimes we have requests from customers that they want to make sure that we keep some specific things which may appear as core behaviors or core features. So usually it's not overwritten, but we used to have an issue on categories here. These were overwritten, so we would not lost anything during the upgrade process. We would take again the values that potentially the translations that the customer had, and we would restore them even before the customer had the upgrade result, before it was deployed. But it added an unnecessary task for us. So we made sure these translations were not overwritten. And the last thing is the report engine. The report engine is an open source project that we publish, and you can actually Cypher report Ganister. Let's say this. So this is an open source project because it doesn't require Ganister. This module is a JavaScript module where you send a Cypher query, you send an HTML template, and it will pull data from your query, from the result of your query, and set them as a nice report. You need to have this kind of template here. It's not, so the revision is I believe good question. I think it's 0.0.28, something like this. It's not a version, it didn't reach version 1 yet. But yeah, we made a significant improvement which we wanted to add to Ganister. So we now consume the latest version of this reporting engine. So if I can finalize the install, so there was this install. So now we saved. Did we save the file, the text file? I think so. So now I can do npm run db-init, because I've created this database which is empty, but I need to make sure that it runs. So I will start this database. So once it's started, we will run the db-init command, which creates the first nodes that are necessary to play with Ganister. I will close my other server. So I have to wait for this to be loaded. In the meantime, if there's any question, I'm going to check on LinkedIn if there's any comments. I think next time I'm going to, I guess, use 2 computers. Startup timed out. I'll try again. It seems active now, so we'll see if it works. So npm ramdb init. Again, this is a very technical, this is a technical feature. We demonstrate Ganister, and we demonstrate how what the business case is. And if companies are interested, what we do is we host the whole system with multiple databases, multiple instances. You can have, if you want very specific developments, you can pull the application on a computer for a developer, for example, even though you can still develop using our method editor without having to install Ganister on your own computer. And so this is very for anyone who wants to develop more specific things and wants to run Ganister on his own computer. Yeah, I think I have an issue with the database, and it may be related to the connection that I have impacted by the live stream. So I will stop here. There is another video about installing Ganister. The install process didn't change, so you can just rerun the same process. Yeah, live streaming and playing with this is not ideal, or maybe I will need to use multiple computers to do this. Again, if you have any question, you follow this video. If you have any question, feel free to send us an email at contact@ganister.eu. We'll make sure we'll get back to you. Thank you, everyone. If you have issues installing, just keep in touch also.